Hi, Miss.
Hi, Miss
Hello.
Nathan.
Miss.
Hi.
But before anything else, I would like to introduce myself. I am Charlotte Cruz. I am first year broadcasting student from Lyceum of the Philippines, Manila. And these are my fellow news reporters. Say hi,
Hello.
guys.
Hi. สวัสดีค่ะ
Hi,
Miss Lot.
Sawadika.
Hi, Ken and
Kamusta?
JB, right?
Yes, Jamie.
And
My
this is
pleasure.
Miss Nata Mahatanat. She is a pre-democracy activist. She is also a leader of We Vote movement and a lecturer of communications.
Yes. So, okay, ma'am. So before anything else, just a disclaimer, we don't have a premium Zoom account because we're too poor to avail one. So it means that our meeting is only limited for 40 minutes. So if in the interview
Okay.
process you get cut off, can we ask you to rejoin again?
Sure.
Right, thank you so much. Okay, so before anything else as well, if you feel like the questions that we're going to ask will pose a threat to your security or anything, just tell us because your safety is also
Yeah.
there.
No problem. Yeah, feel free to ask anything and I will answer everything.
Yes, because we really understand the sensitivity of this issue. Now, can you spotlight Miss Bao?
Yes, already.
Okay, so are you ready for the questions, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start off with a very general question. So, what can you say about the situation in Thailand right now?
It keep everybody on their feet. I'm not the leader of the movement this time, but I've been joining and I think the whole society think that the situation now is quite unpredictable of what will happen next. We have new bomb throwing in every day, not literally a bomb, but it is like big surprise every day. For example, when the students have the peaceful protest and we call it a flash mob, which means they will gather for a few hours and go home. In that night, I think it was last Friday, about over a week now, there was a crackdown by a water truck that splashed like high pressure water to people, and that water is mixed with chemical. Like, can you imagine when the students have peaceful protests and they are going home in an hour, and the government just bring in a crowd of police, like riot police, with this truck and just boom, crack down like that. That was one of the surprise. But when that thing happened, it made the protest even larger on the next day because people feel furious about it. I think the last development here was the statement by the king himself the last 2 nights when he came out for quite an informal audience with the people who are royalists. And there was one royalist who appeared in the news before that he went to show the picture of the late king, our last king. And the king saw him and he mentioned that he saw him in the news and he praised his bravery and thanked him for supporting the monarchy. So this is something very significant and it is something the whole society talk about and that made many people worry whether or not it will encourage some ultra royalists to bring violence to the protesters. So this is the latest development here.
So there are also rallies who are pro-monarchy. Is that what you are saying, ma'am?
Yes, the royalist protesters just came out a few days. Over these few days, they formed a group and just to show to express what they think. Okay, I'm not sure if all the viewers understand the background of this protest. So maybe I'll give you a little bit of the background.
Yes, thank you.
Mainly, the protesters' first demand was that they want the Constitution amendment. And by they, I include myself in there too. We need a Constitution amendment so that our Constitution will be democratic. Because the Constitution that we have now was drafted under the control of the junta after the last military coup. And there are many clauses that is really undemocratic. For example, General Prayut, the junta leader, he appointed 250 senates to be the senators and give those senates the authority to vote him as a prime minister. So the Senate mixed with the MP that were elected from the people to form a parliament, right? But 1/3 of the parliament are the people who are appointed by him, and they can elect him, vote for him to become the next prime minister. And this authority is granted to them for 5 years. That means they can vote 2 terms. Prayut could be the prime minister for another 8 years if he wants to. So this is an example to point out that there's something wrong in the Constitution, and that's why people want the Constitution amendment. And later on in the protest, the agenda about monarchy reform was thrown in, and it is quite widely accepted because people know that the reason why Thailand has so many coups, we have over 20 coups over these 88 years of our democracy. We have over 20 coups, and that is it shows that something is wrong. And every coup is possible and successful because of an endorsement by the king. And that's why people think without the monarchy reform, we can never have a real democracy. They want to get rid of any possibility of interference by the monarchy into the politics. And that's why when this issue is thrown in, it causes disruption in the society. The royalists feel very worried, while the protesters still want to push for what they want. And there's this conflict in the way that we've never seen before. But I hope it will bring out some positive change.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ma'am Bao. So I've read in the news and also watched that there has been some red shirts joining the protests. Are there, since you're also joining some of the protests, are there still red shirts joining the movement?
There are, and actually the red shirts people have been really active about any pro-democracy movement. During my time when we have the calling for the election and what we call the We Vote movement, during that time, the majority of the protesters joining us are the red shirt people. And it remains so up to this movement at the early stage. Only in the last few weeks that we see more youth joining, and now the youth has become a majority. The red shirts are still there, but now they become the number less of the young people. And by young people, I mean students, university students, as well as high school students. Now they've become the majority in the movement.
Okay, so Charlotte, please proceed with your question.
For the second question is, what can you say about the incident where the water cannons aimed at the activists?
You want my view about using the water cannon? Okay.
Yes, what can you say about it?
I think it's very much military style. I don't even think the police has made that decision by themselves, because before they use this, I can call weapon against us, the Prime Minister has issued the announcement of the severe emergency situation in Bangkok. And by this announcement, under the emergency decree, it is like a special law. It grants the authority, almost an absolute authority to do anything they want by issuing new announcement. This kind of authority is just, very close to the martial law. The next level is the martial law. So he just announced to use this decree with this situation. And because of this kind of announcement, he appointed the chief police as the chief of the situation to manage the situation. But on top of that, he appointed the deputy prime minister, which is another general, General Prawit Wongsuwan, who is very, very close to him. They study together. They are the soldiers together. And I think it is the style, the military style, to do anything in this manner, because they are used to just stop the war, and when they treat people as their opponent, they want to stop it with the weapon they have in hands. And that's why we see the water cannon on that day. The police never use this kind of strategy and weapons so soon with the peaceful protest. They have never done that. So I think it is just the junta being the junta and never get rid of their old habit.
Yes, so, but according to recent developments, the Prime Minister has lifted the emergency decree, right? So, is this a sign that that the movement is actually effective?
It is, because even with the emergency they use with the COVID-19, the emergency decree is used before with the COVID-19. They never want to lift it. And up to now, we still have that, even though we don't have COVID for many months already. But they lifted it this time because the protesters do not take shit. I can just say that. They just won't compromise what kind of power and authority you want to use against us. They think if it's not acceptable, they will fight. And it's as simple as that. I think it's the way of thought of teenagers, they have less fear, and they are willing to walk towards the riot police, just like that.
Since you are part of the We Vote movement, when did you start rallying for changes in the government?
Actually, I start joining activities and start being what they call activists after this last coup. So it was over 6 years ago. But I did some light movement before. For example, joining the street musicians to play some Thai classical music instrument to raise funds for the political prisoners. I started off like that, and later I campaigned for the right to bail for some political prisoners, and I campaigned for other just basic civil rights. And because the junta had postponed at that time, postponed the general elections for the fifth time, he keeps postponing. So some of our leaders think enough is enough, and we have to come out and protest to call for the election. And that's why when I asked to join as the leader, I stepped up my activism and brought myself 4 sedition laws lawsuits. Sorry.
Charlotte?
What is the motive of your organization, and what are the methods that you are using to further resonate your call for democracy?
Actually, I don't think there are many groups that can be called organization here, because there's only one group that I've known of that they really set up themselves as an organization and work on funding and support the movement. But generally, we are all quite organic. I myself don't belong to any organization. I'm a lone wolf. I'm joining when I want to, when the motive align with mine. And I sometimes organize my own seminar. I sometimes support other activist group to organize theirs. And yeah, and I do whatever people ask me to do if I think it is within my capacity. So my movement is from, you know, having Facebook Live to communicate with people about democracy, about our agenda, to carrying the sound system, the speakers for students, like riding on the taxi and give them this kind of support, to raise fund for some group, to being a speaker in some events. Yeah, anything I could do. So this is the kind of an activist I am. I just do what I can without belonging to any group.
What is the general demand of this movement?
For the movement this time, now it is down to 3 major demands. One is for Prayut to get out, to resign from the premiership. The second one is to amend the constitution to enable a constitution that is drafted by the people. And the third one is the monarchy reform in order for us to have a sustainable democracy.
Okay, sorry for the delay. So, you know, the current movement is really groundbreaking considering the strict laws that prohibit criticism against the monarchy. So, do you think this is a build-up of frustrations of Thai people, you know, from the alleged rigged election in 2019, from the disappearance of activists and critics, and to the king controlling royal assets? So does this mean that the Thai people have had enough?
Certainly, I think because the truth is now, you know, laid on the table for people to discuss. So people discuss, and when they discuss, there are exchanges of idea. We identify some problems together as a society, and I think people demand change, even though there's some resistance. If we really talk together reasonably using logical dialogue, I don't think anyone can really resist this change because it's very tangible, it's very concrete. For example, the amendment of the Article 112, the lèse-majesté law, is quite clear and is confirmed by the UN as well that this law is not in accordance with the rule of law. The punishment and the crime doesn't match. Anybody can use it as the political weapon. It will be good for the monarchy itself if we can amend this law. And for me personally, I also want another law to prohibit the millionaires of Thailand to donate unlimited amount of money to the monarchy, because that gives them a lot of hidden power with the privilege they have from having the picture of them with the king, giving, you know, 100 billion baht donation. I don't think any monarchy in the world can take that, because it is it could be the conflict of interest in the government civil servants. How would they view them? They would give them some privilege because of this kind of relationship. Even the Queen Elizabeth of the UK, I have read, she, by law, she cannot take the donation of over something like 10,000 baht. I cannot calculate it in pound now, but it is as cheap as just a simple handbags. Yeah, so the Queen Elizabeth can take the nation at the cost of a simple handbag, but the King of Thailand can take the nation as high as billion baht, and this happened every year, especially on the occasion of his birthday. And I think this is quite harmful to the monarchy. It's quite harmful to the nation. And this kind of relationship could bring about a lot of inequality in the country. Those business people has a lot of privilege, and it's the business privilege. These are just two examples of what a reform could do.
So, can you talk us through, ma'am, about the 20 coups? Were they supported by the monarchy?
When a coup took place, the junta leader, the coup maker, will have to have an audience with the king, and he will grant the permission, and then they become the what they call sovereignty, and become the prime minister. The coup leader usually become the prime minister by the appointment of the king. So that is what I mean by the endorsement. If the king doesn't endorse, if the king disagree and does not make that appointment, the junta leader will be punished by law, and that include a lifetime imprisonment.
So
Usually,
basically,
there were a few times that the coup maker did not get that endorsement, and they have to flee from the country because the punishment under the constitution is very harsh.
so basically, what the movement is all about is that they don't want the monarchy to interfere in military coup. Is that it, ma'am?
That is one of the very major issue. Sorry. Yeah. Apart from that, actually a protest group has pointed out 10 demands for the monarchy reform. Yeah, and those 10 demands include something like the king cannot give a like personal statement to the public, for example. And this is also in line with the monarchy like in the UK. And yeah, there are many details. There are details about the asset management. Yeah, about the Crown Property Bureau. There's a demand about the king should not have military under his command. At the moment, he still has an armed force under his command. So within those 10 demands, there are lots of detail, and I think that is what the society should look at and debate. You know, at the end, they may not get everything they want. They may not get the 10 demands. They may get 5. They may get 6. That is up to the public, the people of Thailand.
Okay, so it is also interesting that this movement is not really a revolution, but rather reformations. So can you give us more insights about this?
Right. I think I agree that we go for the reform rather than the revolution, because we have to admit that the monarchy has been part of the Thai culture for 800 years. And there are many, I could say, majority of the Thais still have that bond with the monarchy, because over these 800 years, the main culture, the high culture of the people always come from within the palace. For example, fashion. Yeah, there were times that when the women in the palace cut their hair short, then the whole country cut their hair short. This is, within their daily life is being like that. On top of that, there were times that there were use of propaganda strategy to bring the the monarchy as the center of the hearts of the whole country. And that happened a lot during the time we fight with communism. And that is embedded in the Thai's mind and the culture. And you cannot just delete it in a day. It takes time for any change, for cultural change, for legal change. Up to the point we could be the country with a constitutional monarchy, like in Japan, like in the UK, and like in a few countries in Europe, Belgium, Sweden. I think this is what we aim for. And after all, the royals is just a family. It's in the UK now, it's like a celebrity, right? That some people love and some people feel neutral and some people dislike and some people hate. I think that's very natural. And at the moment for Thailand, the monarchy is still something quite important for the Thai people and the Thai culture. And that's why the reform suits Thailand more than the revolution.
Charlotte.
So, Miss, are the protesters in favor of Prime Minister Prayut should resign?
Prime Minister Prayut should resign. Actually, I think is I could almost say a consensus. If not a consensus, the majority of people in Thailand think Prayut should resign because of how he came to power, because of his inefficiency in managing the country, especially in economics, and because of his power over this 250 Senate, which will block any kind of reform or constitution amendment. So I think majority of the people think Prayut should get out in order to pave way for the development. Mm-hmm. And this is the support we have for this agenda is a lot more than what we have for the monarchy reform. I could say that. Many people said, if we only call for Prayut to get out, we may get it by now. But, idealistically, I think we can express our view for what we think is right, and we can call for, we can say the demand we want, and then the people will decide.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And for the next question is, I'm sorry. As a woman and a mother fighting for democracy, what are your challenges and what are you most afraid of?
I think the challenge for democracy is the democracy itself. I mean, in democracy, people have their thought and there's diversity. And if we truly embrace democracy, that is what we always have to remember. So the challenge is whether we can always hold on to the value of democracy to the end. That, I mean, bringing out change in a peaceful manner, despite all the obstacles, despite a lot of resistance. Can we hold on to the value of democracy? Can we really listen to the people who are not agree with our thought? Can we take all the distortion of our message? Can we take the difference in the movement itself? I think these are the challenge on top of what the challenge we already have from the authority, because at the moment the government is still towards the authoritarianism in the way they look at the situation. That in itself is challenging enough. I think on top of that, and we don't talk much about this. On top of that is whether or not we can hold on to the values and culture of democracy throughout the movement. That is very important. It's very difficult to tolerate and to listen to the view that opposing yours. But I think that is very important for any kind of reform.
Thank you, Miss. And for the last question is related to what you said earlier about the 10 demands. What do you think is the most hopeful for?
The most hopeful, the most possible one? Actually, all of them are very difficult because when the so-called royalists, when they oppose us, when they object the demand, they object it all. They object the whole bunch because they paint us, and some of them truly understand that we are anti-monarchy and we want to get rid of the monarchy. That is their understanding. So I think that is what we have to crack first. We have to make them understand that reform is reform. Reform is to bring about positive change. Reform is not destroy. So once we can get this mutual understanding, that is the starting point. We can talk about the 10 demands. And I think at that point, it won't be as challenging anymore. And any demand is possible then. But we have to, destroy this wall first. I think it's a big wall here. We have to dismantle first the wall of misunderstanding. And I think the way to dismantle this wall, to destroy this wall, is to have a constructive communication, to speak in the way that they can listen, to be quite gentle in a way when we talk to our opposition, so that their mind can be open, and then their ear will be open, and then their brain will be open, and we can have a constructive dialogue. It's very important, the dialogue, not a one side talking. They talk one side and they listen among themselves. We talk among ourselves. Where is the dialogue? I think this is the important issue, and it is a challenge.
So is there any additional questions?
I have an additional question, if you don't mind, ma'am. So, so what do you think is the significance of this movement, not just in Thailand, but also to other countries who are facing brutal crackdowns on activists, for example, Hong Kong and even Philippines? So what do you think is the significance of this movement?
Oh, yes, that is another phenomenon, actually. The level of international media attention we have is massive. And I think that's because the youth are the one who lead the movement now. And that's because there's a series of youth movement. And I think Hong Kong is the model. What happened is the solidarity among us in many countries, and I think that is also why you want to interview someone from Thailand today, right? We share the same challenge, and we share lessons we learn a lot from Hong Kong movement. In Thailand, we also have the Telegram group set up because of the example we get from Hong Kong. Joshua Wong did tweet about the movement here and show his support, as well as a lot of Hong Kongers. And they use the hashtag like in solidarity, stand with Thailand, and the Milk Tea Alliance. You heard of that, right? Yeah, that used to, it occurs when Hong Kong and Taiwan were attacked, and the Thai people on Twitter went to support them. And because we all love that, bubble milk tea, and that here come the hashtag Milk Tea Alliance, and it is being used now to support the movement in Thailand. So I think what happened in the world is the inspiration among the youth, as well as all the pro-democracy, no matter how old they are. And I think that is very, very positive for the democracy as well as the human rights principle.
Yes, actually, we also heard that K-pop fans were also raising a lot of, actually millions of bats. Yes.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so do you think that, this movement has a great likelihood that it will be successful?
I hope so, and I believe so. I believe so. I think majority of the people on both sides, they are reasonable people. There are some people who are haters. There are some people who want violence. But those are minority, and we have to always remember that those are minorities with loud voice. But the majority don't want that. And that's why I always have the hope that this movement will end well for the country. And by the movement from now, it will not be just the protesters, but every part of the society can take part in this movement for change. Even though when they don't agree with us now, they can be part of the movement too, because they can throw in their voice. And I hope the movement in Thailand will become another model for people around the world in the country where democracy is not yet there. So I hope so.
Thank you so much for your heartfelt answers, Ms. Bao. Now, let's proceed to Elaine for her additional questions.
Good afternoon, ma'am. So I have an additional question for you. What is your advice on our younger generation and to our political activists?
Oh, okay. I take it as my discipline to rarely give advice to the younger people. Even though I'm a teacher and I'm already a mother, but I try not to dominate them with my thought. But if I could share some of my experience, I think the most important thing for me as a weapon for an activist is the knowledge about law in your own country, the knowledge about principle of human rights, and knowledge about what kind of mechanism you could use, be it the international support mechanism or be it the political mechanism. For example, what can you use in the parliament? What can you use them as your tool to move your agenda forward? So the knowledge about all this is very important. It will make you more powerful than just have only the passion. So the passion and the knowledge comes together, I think, bring out a strong activist and a strong movement. And communication is key. In order to campaign, every movement is similar to an election campaign. You want more vote. You want more support from the public. So it's similar to an election campaign. How can you communicate your agenda in the way that people can understand easily, in the way that people who don't like you from the first place start to listen to you and start to agree with you, and in the way that bring inspiration to the people.
Thank you, ma'am. How about you, Ken? Do you have any question?
Yes, Ma'am Bao. Just an additional question. What is the mission and vision of the organization, which is the We Vote movement, or the important goal for this movement?
Okay, We Vote movement and this movement are a bit different. We Vote movement just call for election because at the time we are under the military junta, their absolute power. And it was a lot riskier at that time in terms of getting the charge. Even when our group is quite small, almost everyone who came out with us were charged with harsh law at that time. this movement is different in the way that the context in Thailand is different now. Even though we still have the same prime minister, but we do have the parliament as well. We do have opposition party in the parliament, even though they cannot be so strong because of how the election was formed. But we have them. We have the people who are more courageous now because they feel that there are support and there are more people who dare to come out. So the context is very different. There are a lot more tools and mechanism we could use to support the movement. That is one thing. Another thing is the demand is very different. In We Vote movement is very simple. Just general election is very simple. But here it become more complex. There are 3 demands and all of them are big in itself. And that's why the communication must be very efficient as well. When you call for election, it's very simple. Everyone can understand. When you call for constitution change, it takes time to explain. When you call for the monarchy reform, it takes time to open the hearts and explain. So it is bigger in every way. But at the same time, you have more support from the people.
Yes, Miss Ver, thank you so much. Guys, any questions?
Ira.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
So, you've mentioned earlier that majority of the rallies or the people joining the protest is younger people. So, do you think it is a good thing? And after so many years of the why do you think now? Why do you think only now people of Thailand are stepping up?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. And I wonder that myself. Like, there are many times I ask, why, when we just call for the election, where are all these people? At that time, some of them are too young. But I mean, where are all the students when we asked for the election? And I think it's just because we just reached the tipping point. It's not that they did not see what happened over the last 6 years, but it's because they have seen and they gathered their understanding and information and courage. And at one point, it just tipped. So I think it just happened just like that. At one point, it just tipped. And then actors, actresses, singers, celebrities start to came out and say, yes, we support this movement. And then it become, mass. Some part of it become fashionable. And I think all of this together is attractive to the youth. And also because of the change in political context here, when they see what the king does, and because the character of our current king is quite different from the previous king, it brings a lot of attention and it sparks a lot of questions. And it's just a lot of jigsaws coming up together.
So, ma'am, another question is, what do you think is an ideal leader for you?
Can you repeat that again, please? And maybe if you could speak up a little bit.
Yes. So, what do you think is an ideal leader for you, ma'am?
What do I think is what leader?
Ideal leader, ma'am.
Ideal leader. Oh, you mean the leader for the country or the leader for the movement?
The leader for the country, ma'am.
Oh, ideal leader for me is a leader who is truly chosen by the majority of the people of that country from the free and fair election. That is my expectation. My ideal leader is very minimum because I think people in any country, they deserve the kind of leader they choose. So if you are in the country that is not yet very developed, your leader may not be in a very high quality, but it's the leader that the people choose, and that's what they deserve. And I think if we start from this level of expectation, we start to have the leader that reflect the need of the people, and democracy develop from there, and people will learn from the leader they choose. If they have made the wrong choice, they learn, and in the next time they will choose better, and they keep learning and they keep developing. Sometimes people may make mistakes. For example, what we've seen in the US, I think many people share this sentiment that, oh, how could the democratic country like that has a leader like that? I think people deserve their own leader, and they learn from their lesson, and that's what I want to see. Problem with Thailand is that we never get the chance to learn our lesson, because every time we have problem, there's a coup, and when there's a coup, there is the distorted constitution, there's distorted election result, and that's why we've never learned well. So I just hope that we have the democracy as the base, and then we will develop from there.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
Glenda, are there?
Yes. Yes, Miss. Any message po to those people who have no voice to fight for their rights po?
Oh, okay. I think everyone who has that challenge, they live in very different and diverse contexts. So you have to look around yourself and see what you can do, and use the strength you have. If you are a good communicator, maybe you can start, using YouTube clip or Facebook Live as your media, and bring about change. If you're good at creating activity, you can create the kind of activity that fit with the context you live in. If you have more freedom, you can stage a protest. If you have less freedom, you can make art exhibition, you can make a talk series, and try to make a network of whatever the stakeholders you have, or whatever mechanism you can use. Make connection with political party who share your goals. Make connection with the NGO who could support your movement. Make connection with students, activist group who may need support from you. Make that kind of connection, and do what you are best at doing. And when many people come together as the network like that, people will bring in their strength, and that is what makes a movement strong. And I think that's what one could do, and it can start from one person and it expand from there. I just start from being an active news reader on Facebook. Before I type my opinion on Facebook, before someone see my opinion and ask me to join a TV program, to be a host of a TV show, before someone think that I can be an activist and ask me to join a street musician, and then become a protest leader. So it just starts from your passion and from knowing what you can do, and then do it.
Okay, so thank you so much, ma'am. And we apologize if we keep barging in questions, but it was really nice talking to
It's
you
wonderful.
because it's such an informative discussion. But for the last question, very last question, are you not afraid of being an activist, considering the strict laws and the disappearances of activists and critics?
It's really, really risky, but I always estimate my risk. I live in Bangkok. I'm quite close to the media attention. So at a level, I'm safe. And when I have that kind of immunity at a level, I step up my level of movement or activism as well. As long as you can, keep this line in the last line that you think is safe for you. That's my strategy. But that doesn't mean it's not very risky. It's really, really risky. I used to be detained in jail, and I could go back there anytime. It's really, really risky. But I think for not doing anything is riskier for the society and for my future and for the future of my son. And I think someone just have to do what one thing is right, because not doing it is more painful. That's me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. In fact, we are actually having a hard time trying to find activists because there was one where he said that he cannot publicize his views because he's already charged in the court. So it must be really challenging to be an activist in Thailand these days. So I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate
Thank
it, and
you.
we are so humble because we're just a mere student organization, but we want to publish news that we think matter and news that will really inspire other people. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. It's really enjoyable talking to you, and I feel your passion, and I wish you the best in what you can contribute to your own society, and let's keep in touch.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank
We
you.
are also hoping for the best from this movement, and please always take care.
Thank you. See you.
Mom?
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, Miss.
Mom, can we
And
take
stay
a
healthy.
picture first?
All right, let's take a picture. So just smile, guys. Okay. Okay. One, two,
Wait
three.
lang.
Wait. All
These
right.
3 fingers is the symbol for our movement. So if you
Okay,
want,
let's do
you
that.
can do it.
Okay.
Let's do that. Wait. Let me save it first. One, two, three. All right. Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you,
everyone.
Miss.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Mom.